You're listening to the Visibly Fit podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett, and every week I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a naturopath, fitness expert, and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Visibly Fit podcast. I'm your host, Wendie Pett. I got to ask you, do you ever feel like your life is a total mess, like full-on chaos? I mean, do you struggle in one or more areas of your life? Maybe you think you've tried everything and maybe you're at the point where you have just given up. Well, my next guest on today's podcast writes in her book, she says, hope breathes into the soul and whispers, try one more time. Isn't that amazing, right? Hope breathes into the soul and whispers, try one more time. I love that. Without hope, we become set in our ways, and without hope, we become set in our situations and our circumstances. And sometimes people just need a reset. They need a reset with their emotional health. They need a reset with their physical health. Maybe it's with their finances, their relationships. I have the perfect person on the show today to talk about a reset and how do we get that reset. If you're listening to this podcast for the first time, I do want to make it clear that this podcast is part of the Spark Media Network and it can now be found on the Edify app, so check that out. But my guest today is Jacqui Phillips, and she is an American celebrity makeup artist. She is a public speaker, award-winning and best-selling author, and Jacqui's mission in life is to inspire others to aspire to be their best selves. In addition, she encourages others to break those shackles in their lives, to walk in truth and embrace their unique divine purpose. She has written a book series, a children's book series called The Adventures of Stushy and Bello. I think I said that correctly. But she's also a #1 Amazon best-selling book author, and that book is Reset. And I have it right here in my hands if you are watching on YouTube. Reset. And Reset is a journey. In Reset, she tackles 6 problem areas all of us deal with at one point or another: health and fitness, relationships, finances, emotions, appearance, and faith. But more importantly, we learned that it's never too early or too late to reset your life despite setbacks. We're going to hear Jacqui's story. We're going to hear how she works with celebrities and maybe some stories that she can share with us on some of these topics and how maybe she has seen people reset in their own life. But she speaks all over the place. She is an international and inspirational speaker, and she encourages others to dare to dream. No dream is too big because it is your opportunity to reach for your goals and take what is meant for you. Jacqui facilitates this through her nonprofit Reset program by touring the country, doing prison ministry, visiting schools, and sewing into others. Jacqui received her Master of Arts degree in Public and Organizational Relations at Montclair State University. She is a certified professional life coach with Fowler International Association, a master business coach. She's a member of Christian Women in Media. This goes on and on and on. She is an active member of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences in New York. She is pursuing a doctorate in professional studies in instructional design leadership at Franklin University. Oh my goodness. Again, this list goes on and on. Jacqui, welcome to Visibly Fit. We are so excited to have you on the podcast. Wow, what a bio.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for having me.
Yes, you have accomplished so very much. I mean, when you think of maybe a celebrity makeup artist, you think, well, they're a makeup artist. No, you do so much more.
Yeah.
So let's just dive right in and talk about your book Reset. And I know this book has been out for a little while, and you and I had the
Mhm.
privilege of speaking on the same stage in New York a couple years ago at an amazing women's conference, and that's where I got the
Yes.
pleasure of meeting you. And I
Yes.
love that we are so much in alignment of just the foundation of what a healthy life looks like, right? And
Yes.
you touch on so many of those things. But I think before we tap into even getting the story of you writing your book, let's hear a little bit about Jacqui and what even got you into becoming a makeup artist to begin with, and then a little bit about your faith journey.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
she didn't know I was going to say that.
well, the makeup artist. I really fell into doing makeup. I I've been doing it since I was a little girl. Um, my parents divorced when I was 8, and I'm from the era of when women used to get their hair done. Well, I guess people do it again now. They get their blowouts. But my mom used to get her hair done like 3 times a week. And then when my parents got divorced, she wasn't able to do that anymore. And so I became her hair salon or whatever at like
Your
8 years old.
hairstylist, yeah.
Yeah. And so I used to always, do her hair and dread it because it was annoying to me, but I was good at it apparently, because she kept asking me to do it. And then I did my first wedding when I was 10.
Oh my word.
I did my cousin's hair and makeup. I have the pictures to prove it. I think I put the picture in my book. I can't remember. Um, and it just became a journey. And so when I was in college, well, even pre-college, like in high school, I did some modeling and a I always loved like the transformation that makeup could do.
Mm.
And so when I was in New York after I graduated with my undergrad, I was doing a photo shoot and the makeup artist didn't show up. And the photographer asked me if I could do my own. And then he was like, would you want to do this sometimes, when I need someone? And I just kind of fell into it. It was just like one of those things. I just graduated, I was in New York, working. And within like a month, I went to Paris and did some makeup over there. And then I never stopped. Like it was like this weird accident, and every door just kept opening. And the funny thing that happened about the Europe trip was my bag got lost. And so I had no makeup, no brushes, no anything. And so I went to like a drugstore there, and I bought this product, which I don't know if it's still sold in America or not. It was called Bourjois, and it was beautiful. And I thought, oh my goodness, I can't believe they sell this in a drugstore because it was like so cheap, like $6 for like a
Mhm.
blush or something. But it looked like Chanel, like it was beautiful. And so I had all this stuff, I bought whatever I could because I was working that week. And when I came back to America, I met this photographer. Like I was working on a shoot, and this photographer was like, where did you get that? And he was French. And he was like, oh my goodness, you have to meet this person. And then that was like when I did my first Today Show job. I did it for Fashion Week with these models. And within probably like the first year of doing makeup, I started doing television. And then I met this girl. She was another makeup artist. We were doing a job. I can't remember where. It was a TV job. And she was like, would you want to tour with someone? I'm looking for someone to tour with a musician that I work with. And I was like, yeah, like that's the only reason I ever started modeling or doing makeup, like because I wanted to travel. I'm from a really small town in Pennsylvania. and I just wanted to travel and see the world. And she was like, I'm going to introduce you. And I met her, and the woman was Judy Collins. And I toured with her. I absolutely just loved and adored her. And it was
Wow.
so strange because it was like right after my grandma died. And I was really, really, really close with my grandma. She was like my heart. And Judy reminded me so much of her, not, just like her spirit,
Her demeanor
she
and
was,
stuff. Yeah.
she was just Judy's like a very strong woman, very smart, very young at heart, just like super cool, and just, you can talk to her about anything. And that's how my grandma was. And I toured with her for like 7.5 years. So
Wow. Long
it was
time.
long time. I just worked with her recently. She was doing something for the Tribeca Film Festival. She sang there. And
Neat.
so, yeah, she just became this enormous influence in my life. And I always say I learned everything about media by working with her. And so, one door opened another door, and it's a really small industry, and especially in New York. And so I was just really blessed to be able to meet incredible people and travel the world and, have fun while doing it. And so that was how I fell into makeup. But I've always known, I mean, at least I thought I knew how to do it.
Yeah.
So
Well, evidently
that,
so, because
yeah,
celebrities keep you on their uh, their team for
telephone.
seven and a
Yeah.
half years, right?
Yeah.
So I think that that's something to be said. Well, I know that as far as makeup is concerned, um, how, how do I say this? Because you've worked with a lot of celebrities, a lot of models, where I would say that sometimes people hide behind their makeup. Would you say that? As far
Oh,
as the
yeah.
reality of who
I,
they are?
Well, yeah, but I think it's more about I think there is that, especially now in this world of
And
social
not that makeup's
media.
bad. I love makeup. You know what I'm saying, though. Like,
No, I know
yeah.
what you're saying. But I think what it is for like a professional person, like a singer or an actor or a newscaster, it's not so much that they're hiding behind the makeup, it's that it's part of the process of getting them ready to be that persona that is in front of the world, you
Right.
know?
Right.
So it's part of it's like putting your dress on, you do your hair, you're getting your hair done, get your makeup on. And I always said it's important to have a really good team. And I think that perhaps that's probably why I got a lot of the jobs that I did, because I have nice relationships with the talent I work with. And you want to have a really peaceful environment, a happy environment, because you're the last person that's with them before they go on stage, whether
That's a good
it's
point. Yeah.
on a set or on a huge stage. I mean, we traveled the world. So we worked at Sydney Opera House, and I would walk out on stage, with Judy before she would sing, and I would be standing there when she would walk out. So it's the makeup is part of the process.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that a star hides behind the makeup. I would say that it's just part of their getting ready to be their professional person that they're about to show the world and share with the world.
Yeah. All right. Let's rephrase that how I said it. So hiding behind the makeup. I guess what I mean, because I do understand that, right? Like I've been in
Mm-hmm.
theater and dance, and I understand
Yeah.
the beauty of makeup and the need for it in television. But I guess what I'm saying is sometimes the persona of that person in the makeup isn't the same as the
Mm-hmm.
person behind the makeup. Um, in the sense of um, how would I like sometimes it can be um, how to like sometimes it can be a mask for some in the sense of
Mhm.
like maybe they've had a really tough day, you know, and they know that this is part of
Mhm.
okay, I got to put on my happy face and put on my
Mhm.
makeup and get out there and it's showtime. I mean, I think that that's
Yeah.
sometimes just how it is, but the fact that you are their last the last person that they talk to usually before they hit the stage or the television set is a beautiful space for you to be in because you can encourage them right before they set out on their way and make them feel really confident and help them, right? And just speaking
Yes.
life over their life. I think that's beautiful. Well, tell us a
Yes.
little bit. You are passionate about getting people to reset their lives because you yourself have been through a reset. And so let's talk about your journey of your reset and why you're so passionate about getting others to reset and get on the right track to be healthier and happier.
Well, reset, I think, is a part of everyone's journey in life.
Yes.
We all have times in life that we need to reset. Sometimes some parts of our lives are bigger than others that we need to reset,
Yes.
and I think that we have this call from our soul that often is crying that you need to change your life, but you don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And it takes so much courage to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a long time to do it. Um, but then there's a moment that happens, I think, and you just have to rip off that band aid. And I'm glad I did it when I did it, because I felt, I mean, I don't think you're ever too young or old to do anything. I don't buy into that. I mean,
It's good.
people start like billion-dollar businesses at like 70 years old. There's plenty of those stories.
Sure.
So I think that's like kind of a lame excuse when people are like, oh, I'm too old or whatever. I mean, I just went back to school and I hadn't been in school in over 20 years or so. You know what
That
I
takes
mean? And I was
courage. Yeah.
I was super intimidated, and because of technology,
Sure. It's changed.
wondering if I would know how to study, if I would be able to keep up. I knew I could. I'm an athlete at heart, so I'm competitive and not with others, but with myself.
Sure.
But I was, scared. So to segue, that's to talk about resetting, that was part of it. So I think we have a lot of different times in life we reset, but you have to have the courage to do it. Mine was, and if you've read my book, but anyone that has read it or is going to read it, mine was all tied in one. So all those six things were happening at the same time.
Yeah, the six
Certainly not,
things fitness, relationships,
yeah,
emotions, finance, appearance, and faith.
yeah. So I was kind of a hot mess. Not everybody is. Hopefully, most people need to do like one or two, or different ones at different points in their life. But I knew I needed to make like serious change. And sometimes God does things in your life that you think are like the worst thing that could ever happen in the whole world, but it ends up being the biggest blessing in your whole life.
Yes.
So mine, it was like a multiple things and a domino effect, but it was like a slow domino effect. But then once it started, it just sped up. So the first thing that happened was I owned a spa for a really long time, with a business partner, and we were going to franchise. Um, so I had an opportunity. This businessman came to us and we moved locations, which that was the biggest blessing because I felt like such relief because all that overhead was gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like I had a place that looked at
A
New
lot of
York
stress.
City. It was in New Jersey. Yeah. And my idea of what I wanted originally and how it turned out, were two different worlds. I thought I was going to open this place and it was going to be like a Robert Kiyosaki thing, make money while you're sleeping. I was still doing, my television world and music world and, working every day. at that time too, I was doing a Broadway show
Oh my
with
goodness,
someone.
Jacqui.
And so then I, had this business, and it didn't turn out like that. So I was working in the day, working at night. When you do that long enough, you start to gain weight. You lose yourself in the business, in your
Not
life.
there's no
And
self-care. Yeah. And that's
there's
the
no
exact thing. That's
self-care.
the exact thing you were trying to give to others is self-care, and you needed
Yeah.
it yourself.
I probably needed it more than anybody that ever walked through those doors.
Mm,
So I was always a person who was, in pretty good shape and all those things. And I gained so much weight. And it was spiritual weight. And I talk about that a lot in the book. It's like, I think, like I was saying earlier, our souls are crying. And sometimes I feel that our appearance is affected because it's like the wake up call. Like at one point, you like look in the mirror and you're like, I do not recognize this person I'm looking
right.
at.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I knew I needed to get it together. And my mom kept saying to me, you're going to have a heart attack. You're going to get sick. You're going to get cancer. Like, she's like, God forbid, but I'm telling you, this is what happens. Like, you've got to change your life. You're so stressed out. And I feel like God did that for me because my business partners went bankrupt.
Mm,
So within about 8 months of moving my location that I'd had like 7 years or something, everything was gone, you know.
mm.
So I could have started up again, but I didn't want to. Like, I was over it, I
Didn't
wanted to
have the
get on with
drive.
life.
Yeah.
I didn't. And I realized that I probably wanted a business, but I wanted something different than how it, I guess, developed.
Yeah. And you
And
wanted
I
your
mean,
life back.
I'd have I wanted my life back. And
Yeah.
it was a really successful business. I had a huge wedding business. We were best of, all these years in a row in New Jersey, New York City. So it was wonderful, while it was wonderful, right?
Mhm.
And then when
Right.
it's
Right.
not, it's not. So I knew it was time to end that chapter. And a lot of years passed, and I was writing about it. I ended a long relationship as well during that time. And it was scary because, you know, I had, I didn't really know how to do a lot of the things that um, that were done for me in the business, like invoicing and just all those things that I guess I took for granted. So I had to learn everything again. And when I started writing, all these angels kind of came out of nowhere, and I would have someone offer to help me do this, or they would say, hey, I know someone that does that. You should give them a call. And so what happened was, now that I had all this free time, right? I'm single. I didn't have my business anymore. I mean, I had a business, but I didn't have the spa business anymore. And I was helping someone on a show. I was helping them write. They were trying to create a show. And he was like, you really should write a book. And I was like, I have absolutely nothing to talk about. Like, what would I write a book about? And he was like, I'm telling you. And so it just transpired. And that was how one of the names he gave me of someone to speak with was Wendie Walters.
Oh yeah,
And
Wendie. Oh, that's
she's
great.
she's just an amazing, amazing, beautiful soul. And she really changed my life. She
Mm.
encouraged me. She had me write an outline, and like a couple chapters, and I had
Did she
already
help you
had
with
that
these
done.
illustrations because they're great
No,
in your
she
books?
didn't.
Okay.
I drew all my
You
illustrations
did?
and then had them drawn
Oh, they're
professionally.
just fantastic.
So
Yeah.
yes, so I had different illustrators. Lika was one of my illustrators, and I had two illustrators for Reset, And then I had an illustrator who, for my first book, I got a Bike Now What for the Adventures of Sachi and Bello. And then I have another illustrator. He did the next two books. So he did my bullying book, and I have another book, Hugs Are Happy, that I haven't released yet. And he did those illustrations too. And all my coloring books, he did the illustrations for. But I have like a very visual brain. So like I see pictures and then I write, so I would draw a picture and then I would kind of see the rest of it, like the story would unfold from the picture I was seeing in my head. So I've always been like that. I always like see the picture and,
Yeah. And that's kind of how it needs to start for anyone that is getting working on a reset period. They need to be able to visualize it and have a picture in their mind of where they want to go, right? So when you were in this place of, down and out, you gained a lot of weight, you're not with, your spouse any longer or boyfriend any longer, you're just in a funk of a place. How did you need to go about resetting? What did you do? And where, take us through the moments and the action steps that you took and how things got different in your life, became better.
Well, the first thing I did was I joined a gym, and that was horrifying because now I've always been an athlete. So I was always a pretty strong girl, I could barely do one push-up. It was so embarrassing, like I'd never ever been like
humbling,
that before.
A little bit.
And so no, it was traumatizing.
It was traumatizing.
I mean, yes, it was humbling, of course, but it was more traumatizing, because I was like, wow.
But I would say what courage it took to do that, to step out and say, I'm going to do it anyway. That takes a lot of courage.
I think what also takes courage is, and for anybody that's going through this or has, is to keep going.
Yes.
To go back that next time and that next time and that next time, because you hate how you look. I mean, at least I did. And then you're in this gym and everyone looks amazing. So I went to, it was like a boot camp kind of gym, but it was in groups. So it was group fitness. So you had a trainer that would give you your individualized session, but you were still working out in a group. So that was great for me because you have like, you make friends, there's people around you, there's encouragement, and you feel just that energy in the air, that positive energy. And so I just kept going back, and I think I lost like over 40 pounds within that year.
That's
fantastic. So I was back to normal.
Yeah.
And
feeling confident,
luckily,
feeling good in your own skin. Yeah.
Feeling good in my own skin. And I also had like energy back, and I felt like I light back in me. And I realized that, if I can do that, I can do anything, and I was writing through that whole period, and it was good because I made new friends, and, I got my life back. Sometimes like you have to give up everything to get everything. And I feel like that's what I did, I gave a lot of possessions.
One area of life spills over into the next area of life. So as you were intentionally taking action with your physical self, then you started to notice shifts in the other areas of your life. Take action, right? It's like a snowball effect.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, when you can see success in one area, so I know I talk about it in the book as well, like tackle something you can tackle first, because
like once it's going to be a sure win kind of a thing.
Yeah. A sure win, something you can do, because then you feel confident to start tackling other areas. So for me, fitness was natural because I'd always had that in my life. Yeah. And so, I mean, I started playing sports at like 4 years old. So
sports and makeup early on.
Yeah. And so that was, if you do one thing you know you can do, then you can start tackling the other things confidently and not feel like a failure because, well, there'll be another way. Like, let me look about this another way. Let me find another solution for this.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to like keep an open mind because there's not one thing that fits everyone, and like not everyone's a runner, not everyone that likes yoga. Like you have to find what works for you, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it may not even um, start with the fitness aspect, oddly enough. It might
No.
start with the relationship aspect. What toxic relationships do you have in your space that you need to put healthy boundaries around and that kind of thing? And so, which is something else that you were that happened upon you as far
Yeah.
as that relationship disconnection, but that's what led you to that next place, and then that's what led to the fitness reset. But sometimes it starts with that emotional reset, the financial reset, thinking of it all differently. And so what would you say is maybe a step that someone could do, a practical step that someone could do today to start getting their mindset right and getting into that reset, just mindset of, okay, instead of I am the way I am, I guess this is how I'll always be. Instead of that, what's that first way of changing the way that they think so they can take action?
I think that try to remember what you loved as like a kid, or like maybe when you were in your teens or young 20s. Like, when were you the most free? Like,
What
what did
brings
you
you
love
joy?
to do? Yeah.
Yeah.
What brings you joy? Who were your friends? You know, I guarantee that in those years, maybe you weren't eating too much, or you weren't drinking alcohol, or, you didn't have negative people around you, or you loved riding your bike. Like, think of the times that brought you the most joy. Like, who were you? Like, think of how you looked. Think of the things you loved to do. Because I think what happens is, especially as women, we get caught up in everything and we try to help everyone, and we are multitaskers and we do a million things, and we lose ourselves.
Mm.
And we're all guilty of it.
And
I'm
compare
guilty of it
ourselves to
too.
others.
Yes, we
Hmm.
compare ourselves. And that's why, like, with social media, it's just so it's wonderful, but it can be terrible too,
I agree.
because you're looking at people's lives that most likely aren't 100% honest. you
Right.
know
They
they're
give
not
you
like yeah,
the
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 best,
real of their
the
best life.
best
Yeah.
of, yeah. And it's dangerous because if people aren't being authentic, and say even for like a younger person, you're looking at this and you're thinking like, oh, this is what life should be like. Why isn't my life like this? But it's not true. We all have ups and downs, and
Jacqui, I just had someone reach out on a reel that I did just the other day. It's so funny that we're talking about this. And she
hmm
said something to the effect of, not everyone is as happy as you are. Glad you have a great life, or something like that.
oh yeah,
And I thought, oh my goodness, this poor woman has no idea that, I mean, I've got ups and downs too. We all do. So I just let her
yeah.
know that my joy comes from the Lord, that it's not always, what maybe you're seeing. I'm probably just posting a lot of my highlight reels too, because who wants to post all the doom and gloom, right?
Well, it's true. And I think that the constant thing that I do, and I still do it, I mean, I do it every day, but especially during that time, is I kept asking God for like guidance, and also to just like, please put me in the right direction, like put the right people in my life, like lead
Yes.
me to where I'm supposed to go, lead me into any territory that's meant for me. Because I think that we have things, God has things that are meant for us, that are meant for us. And people get so caught up in like competition, and like you're talking about like comparing and all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. But what's meant for you is meant for you.
That's right.
And so, like, writing reset, even like I said to Wendie, and I said, I have no business writing a book, but it was meant for me. And I guess that's how I was able to finish it. And, when I was writing, I would always like pray and meditate before I would start writing.
Right.
And in those years, when I was writing, I was going through my reset, and I had rented out my apartment that I owned, and I was living with a friend. I was renting a place, I was renting from her, and I was like going back and forth to Pennsylvania to see my family a lot. And so like it was not glamorous. And because I had business debt and everybody like bailed. So it was up to me. And so,
But that's what's so great about the book, Jacqui, is that you are coming from a place of going through it, right?
oh, I
And
went through it.
so
And
you can speak
yeah,
from authority because you've been there, done that, and you can help people reset in these areas because you've been through all of them. And
I
so,
have,
yeah,
I have. And like, I did a lot of, I mean, it was just like a lot of things you don't want to do. You don't want to like, when you're used to living a certain way, you don't want to be like living
like
so
financially in a
differently.
certain,
Yeah,
yeah,
financially. And
yeah,
like I had this beautiful apartment. I was living in my friend's apartment just so I could get myself out of debt. I mean, that was awful. I
mm,
had a view of New York City and I'm living in this little bedroom, but I did it because you have to make sacrifices if you want change.
yep,
And that's why I say in the book, a lot like you have to give up everything to get everything. And not that you get everything, but you get your life back
right. What
and you
really
get
matters.
strength. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like so unfortunate when people don't take a chance on themselves, you know? And
hmm
it's only up to us to be happy. And
right.
it's only up to us. Like people used to say, um, oh, well, like Oprah, of course, she can do this and do that. Like of course, is successful when she like loses weight or whatever because she has trainers and chefs and this and that. And I'm like,
That
yeah,
doesn't
but
make you
you
happy.
you still have to be disciplined to eat that food. And she still has to run around that track or lift those weights or whatever.
Right.
Like she still has to do it. So it doesn't matter how rich someone is or how poor someone is, you still have to have the energy to do it and put
True.
the energy into yourself. So if you're not going to put the energy into yourself and you're not going to love yourself and say nice things to yourself and treat yourself kind, then why would someone else do that to you if
That's so
you don't
true.
even do it to yourself?
Well, that's
So
the point right there
yeah,
because you can do all those things as far as like getting your health on track and looking better, whatever, and still not love yourself and still not be
yeah,
in a place of happiness. Happiness is a choice. And so, just based off what your friend was saying, yeah, money doesn't make you happy. Being
no,
fully fit and trim doesn't make you happy. Happiness
no,
has to be a choice, and you walk it out, and it starts to manifest on the outside in all of the actions that you take. So, yeah, that's amazing. What about with? I mean, you have so many incredible stories here, and one of the things I like about too is your book is pretty easy to read in the sense of you've got bullets. It's kind of fun to read because you
uh,
have diagrams and it's just easy to read. But you talk about there's like you have like different areas where you can write down my
mm-hmm,
non-profound truths and then
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, what are the
mm-hmm,
proofs? What are the stories in your head? And then what are the realities? And then
yeah,
what are you speaking life over your life or not? So these are kind of little exercises you can do throughout. So profound truths and non-profound truths. And she has little areas you can write in. And so I like that too. But really, it's knowing who you are in Christ, ideally, right? That's the ultimate
yeah.
reset.
No, it really is. And I was going to say that is no matter where you are in your life, God will meet you where you are
Yeah.
and he will help you. And I feel that sometimes, and I know I felt this way. I totally felt this way. I felt like I wasn't living right. I wasn't doing the right things for myself. I wasn't taking care of myself, and like the whole world ended. Is like my world kind of shattered, and I started going to church like almost every day in the mornings.
Mm.
I was just like really trying to change my life and like take the time and speak to God and just be in a place of being open to just receive whatever ever I was supposed to receive and give whatever I was supposed to give.
Yeah.
And
Full
I will
surrender. It's
say,
beautiful.
yeah. And, God really did meet me where I was. And I feel like I was saying earlier, now it all makes sense, right? Um, every doors just kept opening, you
Mm.
know, and it was really beautiful. And I feel that that is why, like even with the prison ministry, I, I'm very humbled by being able to do that and to speak to those women and participate because I understand how it feels to go through like so much, and not everyone has opportunities, and you realize that when you hear these women's stories, like some people are just like born into certain situations, and sometimes, believe it or not, prison can be a blessing because people can get a new lease on life and they can get
Mm-hmm.
education that um, was never offered to them. They can get peace, they get
Yeah.
safety, you know,
They
like a
might
lot of these
get
women are
saved.
in,
They might
yeah, they
know the
get
Lord
saved.
because they were in prison. Yeah.
No, it's true. And
Mm-hmm.
so but we can also be in our own prisons, and our own prisons
Yeah.
are our minds.
So
And it's
true.
very important to understand that, like, you can break those shackles. And that's what I mean is like free yourself from the prison that you're creating for yourself. And it's all in your mind. And that's why I think it is important to pray and talk to God every day because God can, you know, the Holy Spirit comes through us like it
Yep.
did when I was writing every morning. And, God will speak to you if you can find quiet. So that there's a part in the book I say, sit still and heal. Because if you can't sit in quiet and you can't stand to be alone in your own silence,
Yep.
then you're never going to hear anything and you're never going to find guidance and you're never going to be able to be comfortable in your own skin.
That's so
People
true.
are so busy on their phones, the TV's on, there's always like a million things going on. How could you even like find an opportunity to set goals if you can't even hear anything?
Right.
So it's important to be able to do that
I
and
think
be
that's a
able,
good word, Jacqui,
yeah,
honestly, because especially in this day and time when, like you said, it's just so busy and there's chaos everywhere and there's information thrown at us and we're distracted. And I believe that that's really what the enemy desires, of course, is to distract us in such a way that we don't have or don't create that space so that we can hear from our Heavenly Father. And so we have to be intentional about that time. And so I'm so grateful that you're intentional with that time during your season of getting a reset, and you still are to this day, because
yeah,
that's the difference. That's the game changer, is when we can really be still and hear his still small quiet voice. Then he will light our path and he will open those doors that no man can ever
yes,
open or close. And so I love that you are just you're courageous. You're full of tenacity. You're very
no,
disciplined, but you're going in and you're sharing the love of Christ with others, in like these, in prison. And so tell us really quickly before we go about your ministry there in your prison ministry, and what, tell us a couple stories of maybe a woman or two that you've interacted with.
oh, there's so many beautiful women. I've done most of the prison ministry with my friend Terrell Jenkins, well, Dr. Terrell Jenkins now. He's just been a wonderful, wonderful light in my life. Him and his wife, they're just beautiful people. And they're in Arkansas, so I would go to Arkansas to these prisons. And I feel that a lot of the stories I have, the one woman, I mean, I've had women cry. A lot of women, will always pray at the end, but a lot of them, I feel that they were saved by being able to talk and share their stories, and they felt safe by doing it and to be heard. And then to, a lot of them, I mean, the first time I talked, in my book, I talk a lot about financial abuse. And this one woman said to me, wow, I would think you're the kind of girl that has like guys take care of them, or yeah, guys take care of them. I would never think that you were taking care of, a guy. And I was like, huh,
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it made me kind of laugh. And, I said, well, that could be farther from the truth, but thank you. And but she said that it really helped her because it opened her eyes. And she said that, you know, people often look at someone a certain way, but they don't realize what's really going on behind the scenes. Like you never know
Judgments.
what shoes someone's walking in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she said that it like opened her up, and by me sharing,
That's cool.
they felt safe to share, and they realized that, so many different types of people go through so many hard things,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and they just felt like they had more courage to share their stories with each other. And twice now, the one time was just terrifying. The other speakers didn't show up.
Oh my
And
word.
so one time I was speaking at Prison, Florida State Penitentiary, and it's the biggest death row population of women in
Wow.
the country.
Wow.
And it was a really intimidating place. And what I wanted to say, that I'm tying it all in together because I know we're running out of time, but the devil does try to attack you the closer you're getting to your success, or the closer you're going to get,
To your
to
reset.
sharing God's word, and to reset, and to being happy, and to being out of your own prison that you create for yourself, or the prison you let others create for you. So that day, I'd rented a car. It wasn't there. I flew to Florida. I was staying, so I took an Uber to get my car that I rented to drive to the prison. Wasn't there. Had to go to another place. Terrell, his wife, went into labor.
Oh.
So they just never came. And the other woman I was speaking with, Nancy, she, her flight was late. So she didn't even know if she was going to make it. So here I am at this penitentiary, and I have to go through all these different things, and they just like shut
Like
behind
those
you.
security areas. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was scary because it was all outdoor, and I thought, oh my goodness. So then when the first one I went through, the guard like gave me this thing, and she's like, okay, if a fight breaks out or if there's a riot, just pull this thing and we'll find you. Just hide under something. And I was
Oh
like,
my
what?
word.
And I'm thinking, oh boy, here we go. Yeah. So it was,
That
really
takes
interesting, but it
courage.
was kind of scary. And
Yeah.
but I thought, wow, look at the devil at play. Like every single person involved in this incredible day. It was a Martin Luther King celebration. And it was a beautiful, beautiful day.
Mm.
But every single person had trouble getting there. And I guarantee it was because, we were sharing something positive. We were sharing God's word. And darn if every little thing that couldn't happen happened, but we still made it. I mean, Dr. Jenkins didn't because he was in the hospital with his
Right.
wife, but we made it, and we were able to share. We were able to share our books. We were able to give some books away. And so I want to encourage, your audience that the closer you get, like, doesn't matter like how spiritually fit you are, you're going to get attacked that much more. So that's why
So
it's
just
important
expect it.
to sow into that,
Mhm.
expect it, but sow into it, and, you know, just learn how to combat it and accept like things are going to happen.
Right.
But, you
But
have to
God will
just
fight our
remind
battles for
yourself,
us.
yeah, let
Yes,
God fight your battles, and, see the good in it. Like I
absolutely.
said, the worst thing in the world can be the biggest blessings, because that's how you find your freedom, and forgiveness, in reset, I talk about forgiveness equals freedom, but
Yeah.
it does. And that forgiveness always isn't others. It can be forgiving yourself. Like, I
Girl,
had
we're
to forgive
talking the same
myself.
language. Yes.
Yeah. Because when you forgive yourself, you lose that spiritual weight,
Hmm.
even if it's not physical, just that the stuff
Yes.
that's weighing you down, the stuff on your heart, that elephant on your chest. And forgiveness equals freedom. And I had to forgive myself for a lot, because I felt like I had a lot of lost time. There was like so much I wanted to do. And I was like ashamed of myself that I hadn't done it yet. And, so that's why I went back to school. That's why, I'm starting my doctorate, because I feel like there's so much more I want to do with my life and share with the world. And I knew that for where I wanted to go, I needed that education to do it. And
Yeah.
so many people discouraged me. They're like, that's crazy. Put that kind of money into your business. And I'm like, I know what a business can do. Education is like limitless. It's
And everyone
like,
has their own path. And if God has told you go
yeah,
that direction, then you go, you know? So
yeah,
I love it,
definitely.
Jacqui. And yes, forgiveness equals freedom. And that's a message I share so often, that really the key to health and fitness and wellness is forgiveness, right? And that's one of the things that we both are in
It
alignment
really
with.
is.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate you so
And I
much.
love
We
that
could
you
talk.
read my hope.
Oh, yes,
Mhm.
I love that. I love that because
Yeah,
seriously, hope
that's
breathes
my favorite.
into the soul and whispers, try one more time. I mean, those that don't have hope, they stay stagnant, they stay stuck, and they never try and they give up. And so just try one more time, right? That's a great way to end this
Yeah,
podcast. If you're not feeling like you can do it and you feel like you have no hope, that's a lie. just just try
yeah.
one more time. You've got it in you, and God is bigger and he's able and he goes before you. So, Jacqui, I could keep talking to you forever, but I know we have to wrap this up. But I appreciate you so much. And thank you for taking the time.
Thank
Where can
you.
people get your book, Reset 6 Essential Resets to a Healthier, Happier You? Where can they get this?
They can get Reset on anywhere online. They can get it on Amazon. They
Amazon?
can get it
Okay.
on Barnes and Noble. They can get it on Books a Million.
Perfect. Probably
And
Amazon's a great place.
if the Amazon's a great place,
It is
Barnes and Noble
Amazon
too.
bestseller, so maybe.
It is an Amazon bestseller. Yeah. Very excited. And it
Oh,
won a Reader's Choice Award, which was amazing. So yeah.
yeah, it's a
I know I
great
have more
tool.
books in me, but
Yeah, you
yeah, it
do.
is.
And and they will come forth. I know they will. And you're a great gifted writer, and you take a lot of you make things simple and easy to digest, and yet it's
Thank
profound
you.
at the same time. So it's very good, and I know someone will really benefit greatly by your book. So if you're listening, go get Reset. Yes, and
And I want to encourage whoever is, whoever buys it, or even if they don't, you know, those thermometers were one of the first things I saw, because I thought, if you're going to measure anything in your life, measure the temperature. Like, to me, yeah, I thought, well, that would make sense to like most people, because we take our temperature.
sure.
And so you can kind of see where you are in those different categories and know where you want to go. And it's
Yeah.
like a good way to set a goal for yourself and to monitor yourself and to just take account of what's going on in your life. So I want to encourage people to like, don't give up, have hope, just take one day at a time. I
I love it.
mean, that's the best thing to do, just to be present in your own life. Because when you're present, you can see what should stay and what should go.
That's right. And all
you
we
know?
know is that we have today. We don't know about
Yeah,
tomorrow. So why worry about tomorrow, right? So,
it's true.
Jacqui, you are a dear, and I appreciate you. I know you have so much more that you could share with us, and maybe we'll have to have you on another time, especially since you have more books in you. When your next book comes out, we'll have to have you on. But
I would love that.
hey, if you're ever in Minnesota, come see us. And if I'm in New York, I'll give you a call because I'd love to meet up with you and have lunch again. That was so
Me
fun.
too.
All right, sweetie.
Thank you
Well,
so
God
much,
bless you.
Wendy.
All
God
right.
bless you, Wendy, and
All right.
congratulations.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. You too.
All
Bye.
right. So we are so just honored to have had Jacqui on the Visibly Fit podcast. And she's got a lot of great stories in her book. So I highly recommend that you check it out. And she does. She's got some ways of really kind of digesting it in a way that you have good takeaway points. So go check it out on Amazon.com. Again, it's called Reset. 6 Essential Resets to a Healthier, Happier You. Thank you so very much for tuning in to this episode of the Visibly Fit podcast. If you are looking for a reset in your health and mind, body, spirit, emotions, then check out getvisiblyfit.com. I would love to coach you into that next level of living. And if you have questions, just email me and we can have a conversation as well. So anyway, be blessed and we'll catch you next time. Take care. Well, that's a wrap for today's show. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to wendiepett.com. And thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing, not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a Visibly Fit day.